Hi, my name is Carlo Volpe,
And I'm Desmond Silva,
and
and
welcome to
welcome to
Centerville
Centerville
Voice.
Voice.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Centerville Voice. My name is Carlo Volpe, and my good friend here, Desmond. How are you, Des?
Okay, about you, Carlo?
I'm good, Des. I'm great. And everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for your likes. Thanks for your subscriptions. And thanks for hitting that notification bell every time you do. And we'll get notified. You'll get notified when we have a new episode. So, Des, today we want to get back into talking about Canadian politics, right? The election was called just a few days ago, it seems like. And it's coming around the corner very quickly, September 20th. And let's get right into it. Last time, we want to make a correction as a team here because
Yeah,
we were kind of encouraging people, I think, at the end of last episode to go and basically get into the or vote the
the
new party.
People's
What was
Canada.
that?
Yeah, the People's Party of Canada,
People's Party of Canada, and
the
then almost
PPC.
people see exactly, which I still think have great ideas, have a great platform, a great leader, all of that. But at this point, I don't think it's a good time to go that way. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough momentum, and
No,
I would be worried that it would actually dilute the vote from the conservative vote because I do hope the conservatives actually win.
yeah,
Do you agree with that line of thinking?
I do agree with that. O'Toole, I like O'Toole's not exactly conservative. He's left leaning, left of center. But the thing is, almost anybody's better than Trudeau at this point. I mean,
Yeah,
you got a drama teacher and you got an ex-vet. Who's going to
yeah,
be the better one to run the country? Like, obviously
yeah.
not the drama teacher, because all we've had is drama from this drama teacher.
It's true. I mean, and let's get into the parties later. But my first of all, I want to kind of say is that with the military experience, with he's talking about being fiscally conservative and fiscally responsible, and then you hear things from Trudeau like now's not a time to even talk about money. He said something about like, I don't want to talk about fiscal policy or something like that.
Yeah,
It's just nonsense. But let's talk about the idea too that it's a quick election, right? And since the election was called, already the polls are starting to change.
yep.
It seemed like right off the gate, and even before the election were called, I think the Liberals had, if I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken, around a 5% lead, or maybe even 10% lead.
And now they're neck and neck,
Exactly.
right?
So that says something. And we'll post a couple of our references here, in the show notes. But it's interesting because one site here is showing them right at the same 32% or 35%. I think we had it here,
Yep.
338 Canada
As
is
of
showing
August
them,
26th.
which is yesterday
Yep.
for us here. We're recording today, and yeah, 32.5%, both of them, the Liberals and the PCs. They're showing the NDP at 8 or 19.8. They're showing the Bloc Québécois at 6.4, the Green Party at 4.4%, and then the People's Party of Canada 3.5. Now I'm impressed and I'm happy that the People's Party of Canada are where they're at.
Yeah.
But what I don't want to happen is and I'm looking at that graphic here, that purple line. I don't want to see that purple line, which is the People's Party of Canada, go so big that it cuts that blue line in half. And I know I'm
Yeah.
being maybe hyperbolic, but maybe I'm being just kind of paranoid. But I don't want them to make the Liberals walk in there because the Conservatives were divided.
Yeah. And I also think that's valid. I mean, because if you look at the NDP, the Greens, and the Bloc, they're fairly liberal in a way,
Yeah,
actually. It's
yeah,
just that they don't vote liberal. But the thing is, the NDP, the difference is that the Bloc Québécois, the
okay,
NDP, and the NDP have been around for a far longer time than the Greens,
yeah,
and they have been around even more longer than the PPC. Now,
yes,
the Greens have not picked up very much in years, right?
that's true.
Almost decades even. They've been around, the Green Party has been around since like the 1990s, if I'm correct, and
Yeah,
they have been struggling ever since. I don't think that the Greens are ever going to make it anytime soon.
mm-hmm.
But as far as the PPC is concerned, to have like 2.2% for a party that's been around for only like 2 elections,
Yeah,
right? That's something, right? To
yeah,
say that way. But so yeah, I think we should make sure that the PPCs does stay retain party status.
mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't think that now's the time. And just like you said, it's now's the time to have them as the ones that end up winning the seats. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Winning the government over. And also, the last thing we need to do is, I think biggest thing of what we want to bring is the way that the electoral system is actually is working right now, right? I mean, you got because Canada for the longest time, the more seats you win, the more likely you're going to get a vote. And unfortunately, and then it's very unfair for the rest of the country, is that Ontario has more seats than any other province.
Mhm.
So if Ontario becomes red or blue, the rest of the country practically becomes red or blue, right?
Yep.
So it depends upon just on Ontario, and especially around the GTA area, right? There are pockets of conservatives in conservative towns in Ontario, but when it comes to the big players, namely the GTA, you get a lot of liberals there, and particularly it's not because of the not necessarily that everyone there has liberal values, but rather because the liberals plays the race card so often that you get a lot of minority groups, and there are a lot of people who would be considered visible minorities, even though in Toronto they're not really a minority. If you think about it, there's more there's fewer white folks than there are in like down to Toronto and up until Yonge Street than there are anywhere else, right? Up to Steeles, right? If you go from downtown to Steeles, it's like majority is on the east side. You got Chinese,
just not white.
yeah, on the west side you got like Afros and South Asians, right? And then in the middle is kind of mixed, right?
Yeah.
And especially around like Baby Rare, you got the Jewish community and all that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that, but you get very few white folks that are in that mix until you go north of Steeles. When we go north of Steeles, then you start seeing more white folks.
Well, it's interesting on that same site that was showing the projections or the polls. It has a breakdown by province, right? So it's interesting. Right now, it's showing Atlantic Canada is liberal, right? Which is kind of, they're hoping or kind of projected, I guess. Quebec, or showing, is more liberal than conservative, at least anyway. Quebec is much more liberal than conservative. So I'll go through some of these numbers here for you. Atlantic Canada is 42% liberal versus 30% conservative. Quebec right now is at 37% liberal versus 17% conservative, pretty much expected. Ontario is 36% liberal and 35% conservative. And that, to your point, is pulling most of the weight, right? Because Ontario is such a highly, or just a weighted province. And if it's going to be split, I think that's going to be the deciding factor for this election. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, 22% liberal, 43% conservative. Not densely populated provinces, right? But still a large chunk of people with a large chunk of concerns that are conservative. Alberta, 18% liberal, 54% conservative right now. Alberta, if I had to guess right now, Alberta's going to go 60% or more. It's interesting. But I understand Albertans are conservative, right?
Most of Western Ontario, you start seeing that. If you go from the eastern
BC
end is more liberal, the west end is more conservative, and it kind of like you see it's kind of like trickle, and then Ontario is kind of like the battleground.
And then you have here to end it off here, BC at 28% liberal, 31% conservative. That's going to be a battle as well, right? And then the territories, 32% liberal, and 24% conservative. That's a toss up for me. I have no idea. I can see, having, northern issues, right? Maybe they maybe feel like the Liberal Party is going to help them more. I hope they realize the Liberal Party hasn't done anything for anybody. But that's an interesting toss up. Then across the board, it's basically 20%, anywhere from 20% down to 12% for the NDPs. The Bloc Québécois basically only has support in Quebec, right? Yeah. You have a 28%, hold in Quebec, and then nowhere else do they even have a percentage point. So overall, it gives them 6%. Yeah. I understand why they have a party, of course, and the provincial level, they're pretty strong. I understand. Maybe not as, I don't know, but it is what it is. The Green Party, basically 5% across the board. It looks like the territories are high on the Green Party, or, and then even maybe BC is a little bit higher on the Green Party, 8%, but basically 5% or less across the board. The People's Party of Canada, basically around 3 or 4% across the board. Ontario, Ontario, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, and Alberta, right? The heart of the country are about 4%. The rest of the country is at 3 or 2%. And, that kind of rounds it off. But this is optimistic for me. It's promising to me. But it's at the same time, though, I want to, maybe we can speak about the idea that, like, is this what do you think what do you think is going through the Liberals' minds right now? What do you think is going through Trudeau's minds right now? Because he called this election with some confidence, right?
He's probably regretting stuff right now because the last time when every single time that O'Toole has been calling facts on this guy, he's been pivoting.
Yeah. Oh, he's Teflon Don, man. He's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there's I forgot what he was
well, the money scandals,
the money scandals and all that stuff. It's not just that. I mean, when I forgot the exact issue that was there, but the thing is, this stuck with me because of the fact of how Trudeau reacted. O'Toole put forward a very practical argument about the economy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Trudeau reacted saying that how dare O'Toole be talking about an economy about in a time like this, shame, in a pandemic, no doubt. Shame on him. What type of argument is that?
No, and what, first of all, if we're in financial problem, it's probably because he doesn't think about the financials, right? He doesn't think about the economy. But not only that, during a pandemic, it's probably arguably even more important to think about the economy because we're in a mess. How do we get out of that mess? At the same time, how do we keep people's lives the most important thing while getting out of this mess? And I think the Liberals, not to cut you off, but I think that the Liberals are focusing only on people's health and in scaring people through this whole pandemic. His whole election, he's talking about vaccines. That's all he's talking about this whole damn election. Every time he goes to a different city. So, and that's disgusting to me because now what I think the conservatives are saying is, hey guys, still get vaccinated, still do everything, but how are we going to support everything? How are we going to get how are we going to get people to work?
I mean, there's a lot more issues out there. I mean, there's joblessness, the housing price crisis that's going on. The housing prices have gone up. Now they're starting to go down a little bit, but still there's the issues with the native folks. I mean, what do they do with the native folks? They float the flag at half-mast. How the heck is that helping with those people? Why don't they ever think about giving those children proper burials, finding out where their ancestry is so they can link them to their families? These kids were torn away from their families. They should be finding out where the families were.
Real reconciliation, right?
True reconciliation. Flying a flag at half-mast does nothing. I can take a flag and fly it at half-mast. I can take my blanket and fly it at half-mast on a stick. That's exactly what they're doing. It doesn't do anything.
In fact, O'Toole mentioned, he had a great point. I heard him in an interview today. Maybe we can link it as well. He was saying that we should put the flag back up at full mast, by the way. Be proud to be Canadian, but let's do something about our mistakes. Let's do something about if we did. And everybody, no one can deny that there's terrible mistakes, terrible things that has happened. So like you said about reconciliation, but let's not have an indefinite mourning. Indefinitely mourning? No, I don't understand what that means.
That doesn't help. I mean, imagine if someone in your family dies and you mourn forever. My grandmother died when I was 10 years old. If I was mourning up from 10 for the past 33 years, I'd be like, it'd be terrible, right?
Well, and to that, like, mourning is important, right? But acceptance is important, and I mean, justice is important, right? And like that's what reconciliation means, right? Is trying to make right. Or somehow trying to make right. And I mean, flying a flag at half mast indefinitely is not.
It doesn't help anything. No. You had to try. The problem with Trudeau is that Trudeau does not seem to have any practical solutions at all.
Yeah, just apologies, a lot of good speeches. Yeah, I know it sounds from someone who speaks a lot, right? Of 2 podcasts, and for someone who's been a joker my whole life, and I love to, shoot the crap and all that stuff, right? I get it, but you can't be like that when you're the prime minister. You can't just spin everything when you're even trying to become the prime minister, or once you're at the prime minister's level. You can't just do that. And it's becoming very, very, like, I don't want to say, I mean, he's a few years older than me, but he looks like he's out of his league. He looks like he's a child. Sometimes I look at him, he looks very childish. He looks like he's an actual actor out there.
He is an actor.
Running lines like scripts, right? Yep. And that's what it looks like to me. And I think people that are actually in the industry will could probably see that way easier than I can see that, right? But I do feel like it's spin. And I know a lot of politics is spin. But when you have no concrete ideas, like, hey, Prime Minister, what are you actually going to do? Not, this is how we feel about everybody, and my condolences go. It's not about
No,
after the condolences are made, it's about action, and you need
exactly.
plans.
Like I
And
remember, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, and on top of that, the liberals, not only with not having a plan right now, is that for the plans that they do have, they don't have a way to pay for it all, even though
That's the thing.
they know a lot
No
of things
practical.
cost money. So that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way, right? I remember like when I was in my early 30s and all that stuff, I had a really good life, and then all of a sudden, I lost my job, but I didn't go around, you get upset and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but then I didn't go around just waiting for someone to give me a job, right? I went looking for a job. I trained myself. I started my own business. I used that to stay in my field, right? Because I worked in IT. So if you stay out of IT for more than a year, you're screwed, right? It's not like accounting and all that stuff where things stay the same, right? But the thing is, so I stayed there. I ended up becoming a project manager. I ended up becoming, I did work as a developer, DBA, tech support. I did everything, every single job that I could find. I took action as the main thing.
Yeah.
Right. Until finally I got the permanent job that I got right now. Right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you can't just sit around saying, oh, boo hoo, I don't have anything. I'm not going to be able to do that way. That's what happens when you just stick it with mourning. That's it.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And the idea that I feel like he's not really responsible. I know it sounds silly, but he doesn't feel like he's responsible. Doesn't feel like he's accountable either, right? For what's going on right now. Because if he was, I would feel like he would even have more of a sense of like what he's actually going to do. Not just I'm sorry's, right? Like, because not to be chauvinistic by any means, but when you hear sometimes they say, a man, a woman, or just want to see a man's going to get the job done. What's he going to do? He's going to make a plan. He's going to execute it. He's going to get the job done, right? Not to be sexist, but there's, systematic, boom, 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 done.
Yeah, you could say that with any. You could say that on any. Like I've seen women women that done the same thing, right?
For sure.
It's
just that
actions are worth more than words, right? That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right.
And even the idea of like, when you talk about liberal ideas as well, because he's not really talking much about the platform. All I hear them saying on every one of his interviews from CBC or CTV, which interesting enough, you can't comment on anything. All of a sudden now you can't comment on anything CBC, and interesting, wink, wink. And where's all the money going to the liberals? Okay. But when you do see that, all you see him saying is, hey, everybody, I'm here for the people. We've been here through the pandemic. Get vaccinated. He's not talking about his platform. This is an election for 4 more years, right? This is an election for possibly longer than that. And he's hoping to get a majority. So for people that aren't sure, he has a minority government now. He wants to up the ante, give himself a majority government to give more power and less debating over, or in the House of Commons on all issues.
Honestly, I've seen high school student councils have their presidents do more than this prime minister. Like seriously, including Carlo himself, who was was the high school student council president at our high school. So right.
I had a ball, man. I had a ball. But you're right. And some simple things like here's one thing, and we can't equate me at all to them, of course.
No,
because there's nothing. But there's one thing. I didn't promise a whole lot, right? Because you're not supposed to. Because if you promise a whole lot, you're never going to make it all happen. I think I promised hot dog day, if you want to be honest.
Yeah, you do
carnival.
Yeah.
And a winter carnival, right? Whatever you can get, or whatever you think you can get. And I'm not going to promise, a math contest when I have no interest in a math contest, where I have no idea to even get it started or anything like that. You know what you know, and you do what you do, right?
Within your means. Yeah.
Within your means. Yeah.
Cut the shirt according to the cloth, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. You couldn't try to promise that you're going to do this and, take on all these projects or, whatever.
If you look at most of the stuff, like you've always been around saying the budget will balance itself. A lot of the stuff that Trudeau has said is extremely not just counterintuitive, it's extremely foolish. Yeah. Right. Anyone with any sense, if you listen to what he says, it's extremely foolish. You had to be I'm sorry, but if you had to be an idiot to believe some of the stuff that he said.
Well, how can it act? It can't balance itself.
You can't balance itself.
Nothing can balance itself.
You just spend. Where the money comes? Are you earning anything? No, we're just spending money. Where's that coming? Oh, we're printing more money in order to spend more money. Well, guess what happens when you increase the money supply? the value of the dollar goes down, supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
So just like if I had 10 apples and I was selling 10, and I only had 10 apples to sell, and I was the only source of apples, as opposed to if it was myself, Carlo, and a whole bunch of other people who each had like 100 apples, now the price of the value of the apple is going to go down because
more of it.
There's more of it. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Printing more money is never a good idea, right?
No.
It's only acceptable even temporarily at times, but it's never a good idea at the end of the day because you're devaluing your currency.
Yeah.
And there's always, that overbearing, idea that, there's going to be a collapse someday in our economic system. Who knows? But I know that I feel at least best with the idea is that the conservatives are fiscally conservative, right?
Yes.
And even the older I get, I'll be honest with you, I'm okay with socially conservative as well. I'm socially liberal in some ideas, right? But very socially liberal in some ideas, or at least what used to be considered liberal ideas. And now I think they're considered just kind of middle of the road or even just personal freedom ideas. But I don't like the idea that like it's going far, far left. But let's get back to the election. What do you think is going on? What do you think is the answer to, or so what do you think is causing the shift in the polls? Because it is changing day by day now, right?
Well, it's the silent conservatives. The biggest difference between the conservatives and the liberals in terms of the population, the demographics, the conservatives are a lot quieter about it. The liberals, more specifically, not the center liberals, but the far left liberals are extremely, extremely loud about what they believe in and all that stuff. They believe that that their views are popular. And so they espouse this openly. And if you go against them, you're shamed, you're canceled, and all this stuff. Yeah. So what happens is that you have a lot of people who are conservative, and it happens a lot even in universities. Ryerson and other universities that are there, that they have this. If you want to become a university professor, you have to espouse liberal views, which is really, really a bad way of doing things. Such that you have university professors who are actually conservative, who have conservative beliefs. They espouse and they go along with liberal views until they have a certain level of tenure. And once they reach seniority and they can't get rid of them, okay, boom, now they switch. Right?
Well, that's a level of oppression.
That is a level of oppression.
You have to work your career basically, under the guy, whatever, under the table, in the shadows, because you're afraid to show your true nature. Like, my God, how much stress is that causing? How much social pressures, or how much whatever mental health is that contributing to all these crazy things? My question is, because I don't want to make this too long episode, right? Of course, we always want to make these a little bit shorter, but what would happen hypothetically if the Liberals win? Let's go both scenarios. If the Liberals win a majority government,
we're screwed.
I think we're screwed. I think we'll see a little bit of the far, far extreme left. I really will. We really will, I believe. And what do you think? Because,
they've already tried to put in those laws that would allow them to control people to control speech on social media. Yeah. Okay, it failed in the Senate, right?
Yes.
Thank God. Okay, so they failed in the Senate. They got passed in the House of Commons. They failed in the Senate. Thank God for the Senate, right? They are, the thing is, and you've got Trudeau, who basically praises China's Communist Party for how they run things. He really praises their communist dictatorship. Do you really want this guy having all that power and then moving more and more towards a communist dictatorship? This guy, same guy, praised what's his name from Cuba there,
Fidel Castro.
Yeah. Praised him. Okay. This is not a democratic type of leader. Having this go too far left is just wrong. And what they're doing is they're slowly trying to erode at our freedom of speech, freedom of thought. He even put in the past episodes I demonstrated how he put mandatory regulations on charities that they espouse abortion as something good. So, and basically alienating Christian charities that were, or most other religious charities that don't believe in abortion, that thinking abortion is wrong, from preventing them from doing good work, right? Because or extending their ability to do good work with the summer students or summer workers grants, right, for these charities. So it's all over the place.
I don't, and also I don't think that a lot of people realize what happens in a far as we go further left is that it's essentially the erosion of the family. I never really understood that when I was younger, but the argument can be made from abortion to to divorce, or for even divorce first, to abortion, to everything down the road, right? Is that when you have your government on what, it's a double-edged sword, because it comes across as a very nice thing. The government is always there to support you in any kind of need. I get that, right? And in crisis needs, it's good if the government is there. Well, it's good if anybody's there in crisis.
In a crisis, yes.
In a crisis. But what you see is that it's going down the road where the government is kind of just encouraging the government to take care of everybody in every situation. And which is not good. And what happens? What's the extreme of universal basic income? What comes after that? What's Communism. The need? What's the need? Well, here you go. What's the need of two parents to stay together, both financially, both just responsibility, if literally the government is taking care of everything?
Yeah, you'll see a lot more single moms, right?
Well, and I feel like it's old-fashioned and very old school to think like, oh, you think people are together because of money? Well, let's be honest. This is life. People are together because of family, and people are together. In order to take care of a family, you need money.
I mean, the very first instance
shouldn't be controversial.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at when the origins of marriage, we were talking about that long before in our previous episode. It just boiled down to the woman making a man stick with her and supporting the kids. What is that? That's essentially financial. That's the modern day equivalent of financial support, right? I mean, if it wasn't really that much of a big deal, then how come, if it really wasn't for money, then how come you got these there are cases of perfectly good fathers who want to spend their time with their kids, who want to support their kids.
Oh, sure.
Their wives have a good paying job that they can do everything and take care of the kids. They are still taking money away from their husbands on alimony and child support. And then they make it so that the husbands can't see the kids.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a scenario you're right. There's a scenario for everything out there, right? There's the scenario where there's the dad that wants to be with the parent, or wants to be with the kids, and the mother doesn't let him, but it's also the opposite, right?
Yeah,
you're right.
But the opposite's very rare, though.
Yes, it is very rare. And it's become, it's just, I know the conservative values, the idea that the family value is very strong. That's valuable to me now. It's becoming more and more valuable the older I get. And I think that message gets kind of missed by a lot of people when they're younger, because A, they don't have a family, but B, they don't realize the value, the value of in life, the value of having a family unit as you get older, not only when you're a kid. A family unit is important as you're a middle-aged person. It's important as you get older, right? It's important when you're a senior citizen. So I think and the conservatives seem to vote on the side of that. But like I said, there's conservative that aren't very conservative, that are left. I know it's a mouthful, but with that being said, I do have one more question about, you mentioned earlier on that O'Toole's quite left. What are some things are there some things that are left?
I wouldn't say that he's quite left, but he's left.
Center.
He's center. He's left of center. Okay. And the main thing is on abortion. The guy is quite liberal pro-choice. He's pro-choice.
Okay.
And anyone who essentially is pro-choice is typically liberal, right? So now the thing is when it comes to fiscal policy, which is what matters the most, of course. Yeah. When you're running a government, running a country, fiscal policy is extremely important. He's conservative on that.
Okay.
So he's kind of like this way and that way. Now I can understand if O'Toole takes that type of position on the abortion case, because the fact of the matter is right now, it's not something that we should be actually focusing on. Canada right now, ever since Trudeau came in, has created trillions of dollars in debt.
Yeah,
we've gone trillions of dollars in debt since Trudeau became prime minister, and that needs to be resolved first.
It's the immediate issue. Yeah.
After that, we can go on tackling other issues. Making abortion illegal doesn't necessarily reduce the number of abortions. There are other ways that you could actually reduce the number of abortions. You don't have to necessarily make a law. Now, I do suggest that making a law should be there, because there should be a law that basically recognizes that every single human being from the moment of conception is a human being, right? Because I think that's completely unjust that they don't let that happen. But having that, but that's not something that we can afford to work on right now due to the fact that we have to work on fixing the country.
Exactly. I was going to say that's not that's unfortunately too big to hang on to for one election, right?
Exactly.
It's too big of an issue because it's too split. It's too controversial, right? It's too. But so that being said, everything else is he one of those guys that like kind of. I mean, does he vote a lot? Is he vocal? I mean, he's the leader of the party, right? So he must be quite strong and vocal. I like that Pierre Olivier, or what's his name? Sorry.
Yeah.
What's his name? Yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah.
But I wish he was the leader.
What can you do? But yeah.
Nothing against O'Toole, though. Like I said, I mean, people seem to like him. I haven't heard anything super controversial about him, right?
He's closer. Yep. And he's closer to moderates, which is good.
Which is what I am closer to as well.
Exactly. So he'd be more aligned with more like with you, Carlo.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that in that sense, he's okay. So I'd rather have that than have Trudeau, who is on way far left.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of Canadians that I talk to, not only just my friends and family members, but they're closer to you and I on the spectrum. They're closer to the center, right? They may push a little left, they may push a little right. I have buddies that are like, if you're a little bit right of me, right? I have buddies that are that much left of me, and most of the people I know are within that range. I'll be honest. Yeah. Almost everybody I know is in that range. The media makes it look like half the people I know are all on the left, or almost half the people you know are on the crazy rights. And that's the problem with the media as well, right? They like to cause this division. And I think, I mean, even if the polls are divided half and half, we're still like half and half, but still along center mostly.
Yep. And we need to try and understand that that the media does cause a lot of division with the people, a lot.
It's their business, unfortunately. It's their business, their entertainment. I hate to say it.
Oh, the YouTube video. For example, CNN. When it came to how they handle Trump and how they handle Biden, you see the big difference. But they used to, oh my God, back when Trump was president, they used to make such a big deal out of the smallest, tiniest little thing.
Yeah.
President Donald Trump had 2 scoops of ice cream while everyone else got 1. Like, really? That's your deal breaker? Really? Ice cream?
And it's the same as Canadian. Our Canadian press is so easy on Justin Trudeau.
Oh, they are.
Like, give me a microphone to stand in front of Justin. I got 10 questions that he won't answer any of them for, right?
Oh,
but anybody will be able to ask him 10 questions that he won't answer because he hasn't been answering questions in Parliament. He hasn't been answering questions, on the trail. And the other thing, there's a fair amount of footage out there on YouTube or Facebook, if you want to search, folks, where someone's standing out there filming their own version of his speeches, and there's plenty of people booing, plenty of people unhappy with him traveling around the country. So let's see what the media shows. Mainstream media doesn't show that, but the alternative media, the bad boys, right? They show it.
The ones that the mainstream media likes to demonize, right?
Yeah, and honestly, if the liberals get in power, they're going to demonize people like us. We're independent.
Yeah. And we're basically saying whatever we want to say. We don't have to, and the thing is, we'll always try and back up what we say with whatever facts we come across, right?
Exactly. And then we own up to our opinions. Our opinions are only our opinions.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. If it is opinion, we'll tell you it's an opinion. Right?
Exactly.
If it's a fact, we'll tell you it's a fact. Yeah. Right. And I've been open with that.
Absolutely. And here's some interesting things too with Justin Trudeau. So he's been found guilty. These are facts, right? On ethics charges. I don't know the details, but they've been found guilty on ethics charges. To my knowledge, the first Canadian prime minister ever to be found guilty on ethics charges.
Yeah, I think basically though he was I double check on this. They said eventually that he was cleared. So
okay.
Yeah, so that he was later cleared by the ethics commissioner.
So, I gotta look into that. Okay.
Yeah, but he was the first. But yeah, he was charged. Yes, yes,
but not convicted.
But not convicted. Yeah. So he had to go sit with the ethics commissioner, but he took forever to do it.
Yeah, and then the idea that there's been, I can't remember which scandal, if it was the Wee scandal or the Lavalin scandal, Laval scandal. I'm not saying that right, but I think it was the
Lavalin.
SNC Lavalin. Thank you. The Wee scandal, where they basically caused Parliament to go on hold. What's it called? Parliament?
Yeah, but what's happening there is that the Trudeau family had their pockets, and so had their hands in that charity's pockets, so to speak. There were donations that were going to his mother, to his wife, and that's where he had a lot of problems, is because the prime minister and his family had a lot of conflict of interest in these issues. And that's his biggest problem is conflict of interest. I mean, where the heck is he going to draw the line?
And my understanding is that that issue is not resolved yet, and that's part of the issue is that they're trying to push it off again, pass another election, or possibly another lockdown, another lock. So
yeah,
okay,
and a lot of these things don't get talked about because all we hear about is COVID these days, and we don't ever hear about anything else these days. I mean, how many people are talking about the housing crisis, right?
Yeah.
Or how the house is going on, right? Or Afghanistan, exactly, or what's happening in Cuba. Look what happened in Afghanistan, a total debacle, right? Yeah. And here's the thing.
Show. Exactly, complete shit show.
I mean, people were saying that, oh, okay, if Trump was planning on doing it, Trump had a plan, and the problem is Trump actually listened to people. People were talking about, oh, Trump handled COVID badly. Trump listened to Fauci.
Yeah.
Okay, he was doing everything Fauci said. Whatever. Yeah. Then they talked about it. Oh, he was going to go to Afghanistan. He was going to get people out of Afghanistan. He was listening to his generals.
Yeah.
He was listening to people. Even when it came to prison reform, he never did anything on his own.
Yeah.
He would even call people like what's his name from CNN, Van Jones, right? Okay. Van Jones from CNN, right? He was on with Trump for the criminal for the prison reform, okay. Right? And criminal to reform how they take care of prisoners and criminals, and reform them. So Van Jones was on it, and that thing was completely bipartisan.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, and to that point, you don't get to be a millionaire by doing everything yourself anyway. He's gonna have people delegate. He's gonna have the experts, right? Smart people get smart people to work for them. That's the bottom line.
That's exactly it. But Biden doesn't do that.
No. Well, he's been in politics forever. He's trying to take all the credit. At the same time, he's trying to be, hey man, listen to me, man. Like, I don't know. It's not working. Anyway, let's wrap this up, Des. What do we have for parting words? Canadian politics. We're gonna have maybe another episode right before the election. Maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah.
But what I want to get out is, if I'm not blaming everything on Justin Trudeau, but what I do think is that we've had enough. We've had enough of his nonsense. He's an embarrassment. Not only is he an embarrassment, he's an embarrassment and our economy shit. He's an embarrassment. He didn't actually handle the pandemic that great. Remember, we were short a lot of vaccines for a long time, right? Let's remember that. And not only that, he makes us look bad. He hasn't handled the pandemic well. He hasn't, I don't think he's fiscally responsible at all because he doesn't want to talk about it even. So how can he be?
He's like the liberal version of George W. Bush Jr.
And and he doesn't have any action plans, like I say. He doesn't have any action plans. Where I like O'Toole. He doesn't have to be perfect because nobody's perfect, right? But I like that he's conservative. I like that he's going to vote conservative on all these issues. He's going to help to try and get Canada, our economy back. Housing costs, things like that. He's going to care about national defense, things like that, which is
practical.
Yes, he's practical. Exactly. He's
practical. Yeah, he's practical. I mean, when it comes down to Native issues, the issues with the First Nations, Inuit, Métis folks, he's actually going to be he wants to actually work on stuff that actually helps, does stuff.
Exactly. And for what it's worth too, he's like an honored military vet, right?
Yep.
And that goes a long way, man. That goes a long way, especially when you're going up against someone who we've literally been joking about him, calling him an actor. It's nothing against drama teachers. He is an actor, right?
He is an
actor. He personifies someone who's out of their rank.
He's out of their element.
Exactly, out of their element rather. And I don't think O'Toole is that guy. I think O'Toole is a good guy. I think he's going to be good for the country. He's been good and he's disciplined. Exactly. Like you don't have to be disciplined to be in the military, but it's sure going to make your life better.
Yeah. If you've been in the military, you have had some form of discipline.
Exactly.
You have to be disciplined in it. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what it's like, and you come out a different person, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that's what we got for this week, Des. What do you think?
Yep, pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, my brother.
It's YouTube, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Awesome. Peace. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Jeez.
Thanks for joining in and watching Centerville Voice. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you are seeing this on YouTube, make sure you click on the notifications bell so you get notified when we upload new videos, which we release every Friday. Sharing and liking our videos helps promote the channel, and sharing episodes like these helps get the word out so that more people will get to see our videos. If you like what you see and/or hear, please consider becoming one of our Patreon supporters. 10% of all Patreon supporter donations we receive goes to our charity of the year. You can visit us at centervillevoice.com to learn more, and engage with us on one of our social media pages. Thanks for your support, and we will see you again in our next video or podcast.